Explain to people now who everybody reads the internet, knows, okay, well, there's a writer for the promos, and there's an agent to lay out the matches, and there's a creative team to write the direction and everything. Explain the relationship between the booker and the talent at that point, and how everybody worked together to manipulate the outcome. But you worked with your opponent, and the booker got your suggestions. What have you done in other territories? Yeah. Who do you like to work with? What worked for you, and how it was put together?
Well, I recently had a conversation with a friend of mine that we were talking about what you had mentioned, writers and this and that. And it took me back to when I first went into Japan as a masked superstar. Vince McMahon Sr. was there, and of course Andre and I were good friends, and back and forth, and opponents and tag partners and opponents and all these tours. And we used to go on a tour, a tag tournament, Madison Square Garden, and then a Madison Square Garden singles. Well, every one of these events, Senior would come. And he took a liking to me, and he says, boy, I want you to come into New York. I said, well, I'd love to. I said, Andre talks highly about it, and I've heard about it. And he said, but I want you to come in as a cowboy. I said, a cowboy? I said, why would you want me to come in as a cowboy? He says, I got an idea. I said, sir, what did you like about seeing me wrestle? He says, well, the way you carry yourself and, you know, your movement and this and that. I said, I wouldn't have any of that as a cowboy because I'm not a cowboy. Yeah. I am, and I've become a masked man. I know my character. But if I went in as a cowboy and I stepped out in the gardens, the first thing I'd think, I'd look around, how many cowboys they got out here? I can't ride a horse. I can't put a saddle on. Somebody's going to see right through it. I'm going to be a phony. Yeah. I am the masked superstar. I'm not a cowboy. If you want me to come in, and that's when they had that silly rule, you could wrestle all through the New York area, but you couldn't wrestle in the garden with a mask on. So you had to cut the face out. So what? Yeah. So I said, I appreciate it, and I'm honored, and I'm humbled, but I'm not coming in as a cowboy.
I want to be a cowboy.
But getting back to what you were saying, you have to know you can't be Jimmy Hart, because you'd feel self-conscious. You could probably do Jimmy Hart, and Jimmy might be able to do some of yours, or you can't be another manager because you're established. You feel comfortable with you. Everybody has to be their person. You have to live that person. You have to walk that person. You have to think like that person. Therefore, you are that person. And it just flows. But a writer who watches 25 different guys can't be 25 different people. Yeah. He's going to screw up. The big thing, the biggest drawback I saw is when they had Bobby Heenan. Bobby would fly off you'd give him a subject, tell him where the town is, who the opponent is, boom, boom, boom. He'd take it and go and he'd make a hit. Yeah. Score a bullseye every time. Well, then somebody told him, well, no, you got to say this, you got to say that. So he's too worried, and what's the product now? They're so worried about what they have to say and worried about leaving a couple things out that they do. Yeah.
Or they don't have any conviction because you can see them reciting the words but looking inside themselves rather than boring a hole in the camera and looking to the opponent, etc. And when you sit down with like you in wrestling too, which you get to in a minute, there was a huge program. You would sit down with Ole, and Ole would say, hey, what'd you guys do in that match last week? I saw that pop the people, and had some way we need to slip you over Bill, some way screw him a little bit so we can bring it back. Next week's stipulation is such and such.
Well, first of all, you have to have confidence that you're not going to get screwed. And I had confidence in Ole. Ole had faith in me. I had confidence and faith in wrestling too. Wrestling too, I think if anybody talks to him, he trusted me as well. I wasn't there to bury him. It's like when Barry and I went into matches, we weren't there to bury our opponents. We were there to make sure that we had the best match on the card.